going on, everybody? Welcome back to our channel. It's your girl Bex.
And I'm Carly.
And we're here to deliver content to unlock your mindset and actions to be limitless. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And like we always say, ring the bell notification so you can be notified when we're dropping gems just like this.
Awesome. So this week, we are going to be talking about an individual who has made headlines because he's the youngest ever investor in Dragon's Den. He's just 29 years old, and that's Stephen Bartlett. He's the founder of the social media marketing agency Social Chain. From a bedroom in Manchester, this university dropout built what would become one of the world's most influential social media companies when he was just 21 years old, before taking his company public at 27 with a current market valuation of over $600 million. So he's a speaker, investor, author, content creator, and the host of one of Europe's biggest podcasts, The Diary of a CEO. In 2021, Stephen released his debut book, Happy, Sexy, Millionaire, which was a Sunday Times bestseller. And he's particularly focused on inspiring a new generation of entrepreneurs and creators from a BAME background. So I had actually never heard of him until someone sent me the link and said, hey, I think you should talk about him. And so far, the research I've done, I'm blown away.
Yeah, I've been listening to him for a few months now, so I'm aware of him. He's sick, and that his interviews are really, really good, and they are quite in depth, and they talk about like good stuff, and it's kind of similar to what we want to get to, but I think maybe we would go to another layer, a bit more depth. But yeah, he's incredible, man. I really like. He's also made news recently by defending Molly May as well, right?
Yeah. But what he said is 100% right. If she was a man, people would kick. People have been saying what Molly May has said for years. We read books about it. We've watched motivational speeches ourselves with them saying it, and she's getting the backlash.
Yeah, man. But going on to Stephen, so I know he's won a lot of awards actually. Black British Business Awards, Great British Entrepreneur Awards. So yeah, he's doing incredible stuff. He's not only got the Social Chain that he was a founder of, he's also moved over to Huell, I think, as a non-exec director. I was wondering the connection, because he promotes the Huell in
the little bottle next to
right?
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm not sure if you've seen, like, if you listen to a full podcast, but he'll do like, it's cool. It has like a flip in the middle, like it sounds like a page turning. Then he does the advert, and then it turns the page, and he continues. Obviously, he's a social media guru, right? So little things like that, it's just really good the way that he slots it in. But he's also, I think, founder of Catena Capital, which is a private equity investment firm, co-founder of an app builder called Third Web, and investment platform called Flight Story. Doing a lot.
He is. And you know what's funny? Like, I was listening to an interview, and he was saying he likes to keep himself in mild chaos at all times. And though he said he's grateful for what he has and everything, he knows he can do more. So he's always thinking about, well, you know, how can I deliver more value and whatever else and continue to grow, which I thought was cool. And he said he's found for himself, he's more creative when he's in pain. So he talks a bit about like how he started his businesses and stuff like that. And he said he likes to intentionally keep himself in a state of feeling in pain. Obviously, he's a millionaire, and there's different elements to that, but because that's where he finds his most creative and the growth is for him. So I thought that was really cool.
It's funny that you say that, because like, just relating to that, obviously when I was going through depression and stuff, like I just started like spoken word or something, like I don't know what you could call it, but I became like more creative with what I wanted to do. And it's funny that you, from a place of pain, that you become a bit more creative. Like, I can't write anything if I'm not going through something. Like, do you get what I'm saying? I can't just write, because it's just a way of getting out your feelings. So I don't know, maybe there's something related to that.
But that makes sense, because look, a lot of songwriters, they write from experience. of what they've gone through. It's hard, if I can sit here and imagine a situation and write a song, but you'll probably find someone who's actually gone through it probably be able to say it in a lot better way, because it's truly coming from the heart. And he attributes his success to the failure of his first business. And we hear this all the time about failing fast, failing forward. And that's exactly what he was saying.
It's funny also though that, because on the flip side of that, I just came across like a random article, and it was talking about like relationships that he's been in, and how like, because he's so focused on work, he works from like 7 to like 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. They seem to, like, his relationships have broken down in the past, because he's like, he doesn't, people outside of his work don't exist.
They don't understand
those, and they just they just don't exist to him, kind of thing. So it's like finding that balance. And I saw something about him saying about how he's not gonna like put his business over his relationships anymore. Do you get what I'm saying? Because the relationships are super important for him. But again, it's just when you know that you're onto something big, you can't want to have the blinders on. Do you get what I'm saying?
It's true. Yeah, because relationship, let's be honest, they do, especially new ones, because you're trying to spend that time with them, get to know each other. And if you're busy doing something else, or you're touching on them, they're like, well, you're not interested or whatever else. And they're not, it's too soon for them to be on that journey with you. So it's very easy for it to fall apart. But it's interesting. I wonder when that article was, because on an interview on, I think it was called Business Insider, he was talking about, he was asked about sacrifice and, to be successful in sacrificing. And he said for him, it's not about sacrificing. It's understanding your long-term priorities. And he says he doesn't feel like he's sacrificed, because if he enjoys what he's doing, then it isn't really a sacrifice. And okay, I enjoy playing football or watching that football match, but does it sit in my long-term priorities? Well, no. So actually, okay, I'm giving it up, but it's not a sacrifice. And he said, that's where you need to understand what you're doing. And he said he doesn't like it because we're in a culture now. And that's what I love about him. He's not afraid to say what he might get backlash for. And he's like, I don't care, like the culture we're in or whatever else. You have to work hard. End of story. And it's needed. And he loves working. So he says, he said, for him, he thinks, all right, what do I value in life? So he said his health. So he goes to the gym every day. He's like, I was in the gym at 2 a.m. the other day, because I had to get the gym in. Health is important to me, so I did it. My business is important. Podcast. He said, you're not going to see me going on dates, going on Tinder, playing games, because it's not important to me. So I wonder when that
it was early on, so it might have been a few years back.
But he did mention on his interview with Holly and Phil that he did throw it out, say my kids. So obviously he wants them in the future. So it's obviously going to be something he's going to have to focus on at some point. But yeah, I just love how he doesn't try and sugarcoat things so people want to hear. No, I'll tell you exactly what you need to do and what's required.
Yeah. And I think as if you can fall in love with that hard work and the process, then that's where the enjoyment comes from. Because I think, like, think about it, when you set yourself a big goal and then you achieve it, it was like when we did our journal, for example, the fun was in creating it.
Yeah.
Not
100%.
Necessarily releasing it and now trying to push it to sell. The fun was actually within the process. To get what I'm saying?
100%.
Like, and if you could start to fall in love with those, like the creative side of what you're doing and the meaning for it, you can take away like what's attached to it, whether it's financial or whatever else it will be on the end of it. One of the other things that I like about him is how out of the box he is. He doesn't fit, and it obviously he's a creative and he's social media creative, etc. But I think he dropped out of uni after one lecture.
Yeah, one lecture, he's like, I'm out, tapped out.
And when he applied to a job as a freelance consultant for Bebo, and he didn't use a CV, but emailed the founder with 5 reasons why girls call me back and 5 reasons why they don't, and he was accepted the next day. But also on the flip side of that, I just saw a story about how he gave someone a job after 10 minutes after the guy had messaged him. This guy had searched for him on Google, noticed that he didn't have a Wikipedia page. he created a Wikipedia page, messaged Stephen and said something like, I just searched your name. I think that you deserve to have a Wikipedia page. You're releasing your books. I think it would do well with the SEO. He's like, is it okay if I release it? Because he just basically was asking him for the permission. And Stephen hired him.
Wow.
And he said that stood out more than the 500 CVs that he gets every single day.
I bet. And that's how I think he initially started his business. So he said he'd raised 4K from an investor. That went. So he said, like he said, when you've got nothing, it forces you to innovate. So he's like, I haven't got any money left. Now what do I need to do? So he gave £50 to someone for a Facebook page, and then quickly realized that I need to own all the pages here. So 2012, 2013, he met with kids who had built big social media pages from their bedrooms and hired them all. Yeah. And he said, and that's when he started marketing for Amazon, Coca-Cola, Uber, e-commerce company, media company. Like, I was like, wow.
I would love, you know what? I would love to go and work for a marketing company. I'd love to go and work for a marketing company and understand, like, what are you actually doing? Do you get what I'm saying? When you're talking about a social media campaign, what does that actually look like? And his platform, is it Flight Story? Did I say? That's a massive platform. I think it's still to do with social media, and it's just basically companies are starting to realize now, like, things like having a TikTok strategy could potentially be worth multi-millions, billions. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's making sure that you're moving with that trend. I think we mentioned this before, not to have a business that you keep moving with the trends and this is what your business, but adapting what your business is to the trending, like, things that are trending. Do you get what I'm saying?
And he mentioned that. He said, he even called out Gary Vaynerchuk. Like, it's not a coincidence that companies like theirs, media companies, are so successful when they've come from that social media side. He said, I understand social media. I understand the algorithms and stuff like that. And a lot of what he was saying, like, trialing. So he said on his first Instagram, he was putting up cliche quotes like, oh, you can believe it and achieve it. And it wasn't getting any traction. So he was like, okay, let's change it up. And he was just throwing different things out there until he saw something that people were biting to, and he's like, right, this is it for me. So, and I think that's something, you know, in all honesty, we've struggled with in terms of what we want to put out on our Instagram, what's actually getting the traction, and we've not figured that out yet. So it's definitely, like you said, trial and error. You've got to play with it, and when you see things are changing or more people are following, then, oh, guess what, your strategy works, which is what John Lee does, doesn't he? He's got people who are constantly testing different types of posts with faces, with memes, with cartoons, to see which ones get the most traction.
Honestly, just looking on his Instagram now, and I saw, because I watch, I look at most of his, like, post stuff through LinkedIn, but it is so basic. There's no kind of graphic designing to it. It's literally like, I'm not sure if the camera will be able to see that, but do you get what I'm saying? It's just like that, very just written like a tweet, for example, just on a white background with his face, and that's the tweet. There's no graphic design or anything like that, and that's obviously worked for him. Be interesting to see what it was like initially, but I think it is just having, I think in the beginning, like, having that flexibility to just say, okay, I don't necessarily think this is working, let's try something else. We did that. We changed it up, and we will 100%. Probably continue to change it up till we see, all right, cool, this is what's working, this is what people seem to be liking and engaging in and want to see more of, etc. But you just got to keep going, innit?
100%. And that's what someone was asking him about, like you say, keep going. He's talking about, he was asked about how to grow a brand, and he was saying about make your story compelling and with value and be different. So different could be that you add comedy to it. It could be that you've got banter. I don't know, anything like that, but it just makes you stand out in what you're doing. Being honest and open regardless of, and that's what he said. He goes, he's always honest and open. He doesn't care about the backlash. He's just going to say what he thinks. And in the interview, he started swearing, and I didn't think that he was a swearer at all. So it took me by surprise, but I loved it because I know a lot of people don't like swearing, but for me, I feel like that's their authentic self. That's how they express themselves. Like Gary Vaynerchuk, a lot of people don't like, and he even says there's a lot of parents say, "Oh, I really like what you do, but I don't like my kids watching you because you swear." But that's his authentic self, and it works for him. And I absolutely love that. But he was talking about, and he pressed so much on consistency, and he was like, are you willing to start now? Like, he's saying, will I start right now and I'm still going to be getting asked these same questions in 10 years? Like, do I care about the process or the outcome? If you care about the outcome, you're more likely to fail. So because then you're willing to do these things. He was saying no one likes unguaranteed reward. And because that focus, like everyone says, stop focus on the money and whatever else, focus on the value. So no one listened to him when he first started his podcast, but it wasn't about that. He just enjoyed the process and he was learning from the process. And now look at him.
Do you know one of the things that he says in his podcast, in his introduction? So he introduces himself and he said, I hope nobody is listening, but if you are, then he says something else. But yeah, it's funny. Makes me laugh every single time.
Wow. And there you go. He said his first video ever, he was absolutely bricking it. It took him 7 hours. And remember when we first started recording videos, we used to be so nervous. We'd be sweating, just like you can hear it in our voices, like honestly. And, we're probably still not 100% comfortable with it. But if you look at from the start, it's like night and day, honestly.
Look at those. We had another channel. Oh, I think we only did 4 videos. Those videos there. Oh, mate, we were nervous. We were actually so nervous. But funny. You know what? I actually saw a recent post from Stephen and it says, in 2022, stop telling yourself you're not qualified, not worthy, or not experienced enough. Growth happens when you start doing things you're not qualified to do. What?
Wow.
That's so true. It is so true, man. Honestly.
But this is the whole imposter syndrome, isn't it? I'm not qualified to it. Who am I to be telling people that? And especially women, we are the worst for it.
Yeah.
I can't do this. I shouldn't be doing that. No, screw that. Oh, I love that. That's brilliant. I feel like I need to print that and like put that up on my door just so I can see that every day.
It's even like jobs and stuff. When you go into a job and all the rest of it, like you feel like you go into this role or you go and start a project and you're like, oh, I don't know anything like to do with any of this. But if you know everything, you're never going to grow and you're never going to get better. Like I always look at those situations like, okay, great. I don't know nothing. Guess what? At the end of this, I will at least know something more than I did know today.
100%.
Get what I'm saying?
100%.
Even if I'm not perfect.
Richard Branson said it, isn't he? He said when you apply for a job, you want to be able to do 25% like easily, like with your eyes closed. 25% where you're like, yeah, I could probably muddle my way through, and 50% where you haven't got a clue. He said, because otherwise you're going to get bored, you're never going to develop, you're never going to grow. But most of us, especially women, will look at the CV and go, oh no, I haven't got experience, or I've only done a little bit, oh no. And you start disqualifying yourself, and whereas with men they're a lot bolder. They're just like, I'll be able to do that.
Yeah,
I've never done it. Yeah,
I could do this. Do you know what? I'm applying for this job, and it's so true. You start like I've shared so many jobs with other people. The first, I don't have this, I don't have that. I'm not going to be able. I'm just like, just apply. Because what is the worst that can happen? That you don't get a response.
Exactly. You didn't do anything. You just click send. Stop worrying about the outcome. This is, again, it's worrying about the outcome. Like we were saying about, like, there's a lot of things that we need to do that is, and I don't think it's a case of us worrying about the outcome. We just need to just do it. Because what we were saying is, what's the worst that can happen? We'll email someone asking for something. The worst is they don't reply. Or they go, no. So what? We've already moved on. It's not like we're sitting by the laptop, like waiting like all day long.
And that's a problem if you are. And you know what? That's a problem. And you know what? Like a creative mind will always be creative. Do you get what I'm saying? And if you run out of your ideas and you can never think no more, that's when you've got problems. But if you're working on something and then you realize that 50 other people are working on it, guess what? You probably got another 5 ideas that you can go off and go and work on. Do you get what I'm saying? So you shouldn't just have one person in the pipeline that you're going to speak to anyway, and just reach out to people. Don't even be worried about it. Because
100%.
I've reached out to people in regards to Be Limitless, yeah, and they've read it and they're just not responded. Like, I'm just like, it is what it is. Like,
it is what it is. Yeah, fine. So what? It's like, has it killed you?
No.
So
doesn't matter.
what are you worried about it? Why are you worried about it? Just laugh and move on to the next person. Somebody at some point, it's all statistics, it's maths. Someone at some point will say yes. It's as simple as that. And then the ball's rolling. From there, you've got that one person, and now other people are going, yeah, I did see that. And it just opens the door. But unless you knock, no one knows you're there.
Absolutely. Even just statistics, like they say your success rate is 10 to 20%. Do you get what I'm saying? So think about how many people, like, you have to at least speak to 10 people before one person might even say yes to listening. Do you get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, it's hard work. Like, you have to put in that graph. Like, you might be sending out hundreds of messages to people across different platforms, hundreds of emails here, there, and everywhere. Listen, like we said, you better fall in love with that process.
Yeah. 100%. Definitely. There's one thing though, and just thinking about that, because that leads on to like quitting, the amount of people that would quit. And he said something like, I was like, wow, you're so right. Was we got this term that everyone says quitting's for losers. And he was like, well, guess what? You have to quit before you start something else anyway. So for him, he sees that as an important part of the process. He said, like, he quit his first company after 3 years. The next one, it was several 100 million revenue, quit it just out of the blue, done. Like, he sees himself as a serial quitter, but it's not like, we've got this negative connotation to it all the time. But for him, he's just like, well, I couldn't have started that unless I had quit that. So I just thought, I like the way he'd sort of spun that. I've never seen someone view it in that way before.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because, like, for example, we're coming from a perspective of like, we can't quit Be Limitless because we know the value that we can bring and do bring. We have to keep going. Do you get what I'm saying? But if you're, I don't know, like, maybe you're working, I don't know, it's an interesting one,
Because he just felt he'd overstayed his welcome. Like, I've given all I can do to that. So I have to walk away.
I think it's different if you're having a level of success. If you're having a level of success in somewhere and you feel like you've imparted all that you can impart, then of course you're thinking, right, I need a next challenge. I need to see what I can stretch myself to do next. I think that's a little bit of you're coming from a different angle.
But his first company failed. Wasn't successful. He quit that. And that's another thing, knowing when it is, like,
that's the thing.
Look how many
knowing
people
when to quit.
Exactly.
Like, you could be 10 years on working on one thing that's not working.
It's just not gonna happen.
Like, okay, cool. This genuinely isn't gonna work. I've like exhausted every single possible avenue. Like, I'm 5 years deep. I got to move on to something else for my own mental health.
But then from there, it's not a case of, right, I've quit, I'm done. It's okay, this chapter's closed. What have I learned from it? What are the contacts I've got from it and whatever else? How can I apply that and use it? And that's what he did. He used it like his network to then move on to the next thing. So yeah, it's just a different spin on it. I thought it was interesting.
No, that's cool, man. That's sick.
But again, typical entrepreneur where as a kid, they already had that mindset. And I think he was saying, like, his mum couldn't read or write. And he said he was like 10 years old when he'd wake up and his parents weren't there, and he'd go to bed, his parents were there because they were working. And he said he knew at that point, he said, anything I have is a direct consequence of my behavior. And he actually, it was interesting. He says, people all say to him, oh, you're so ambitious. And he said, I don't necessarily think it's that. He says, I think it just probably came from a place of insecurity, given the environment he was in. I was like, oh, I've never heard anyone explain it like that. And like, he's escaping to fit in. But anyway, when he was 14, he ran. So he basically went to a vending machine company, got them to set up vending machines in the school. They made 20% profit and made the school give him a kickback from it. Like, wow. What?
At 14, you're telling your head teacher, listen, I could do this for you, but you need to run me back my money.
Exactly. So I was like, so straight away, it's like Gary Vaynerchuk, another one from young age, like these entrepreneurial minds. So there's a lot of them like that from a very young age. They were already thinking about ways to make money.
Just going back to the ambition point as well, is like, I think when you come from a certain place, like you're working so hard that you never ever want to go back to that place. Do you get what I'm saying? Because, you know, he was living in a house that was boarded up. He was having to steal pizzas to feed himself and all these type of things. Like it gives I think it gives another level of drive and a thought of, I'm never going back there, so how can I keep making sure that I'm going forward?
Exactly, which is exactly what he says. He likes to keep himself in that feeling of pain, because this is where he was. Yeah, like you say, that comfort zones are dangerous things, definitely. Like we very well know. Very well know. But yeah, I thought it was incredible. I loved learning about him. I've already subscribed to his podcast now, so I'm going to keep watching him. I think he's absolutely incredible. And I've already watched one of his deals that he made on Dragon's Den, which again, loved his questions. Sorry?
Don't tell me. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, no, I won't say then. I won't say, but it was really, really, really cool. Just loved his approach and the questions he was sort of asking and his passion. So I'm excited for the company that he's going to be working with. But yeah.
Amazing. So that's the end of this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've been your girl, Bex.
And I've been Carly. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. And we will see you next week.
Peace.